Okay, we are live. We're a couple minutes late because we love to chat and yap behind the scenes. Welcome, everyone. My name is Duren. I'm the host of Changing the Game. Changing the Game was created to share leadership insights and inspiration from female professionals who are making a difference in their industry. Today, I am joined by Nicole Pawlak. Nicole began her career as an advertising AE after wrapping up her Division I career as a swim and water polo athlete. She's taken her leadership skills with her in every endeavor, working with brands such as Nike, DraftKings, Reebok, and many more. She's currently the Senior Director of Special Projects at Athletes Unlimited. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to talk with you today. I know we're going to have a great conversation. I'm again, annoyed that we only have 30 minutes because I know we're going to cover so many amazing topics and some great subjects. So I want to kick it off right away to something I had just mentioned to you before we started this call. So I think it's really interesting what you're doing at Athletes Unlimited, especially what you're doing for women's sports. But I noticed your title right away, Senior Director of Special Projects. I had never heard of that title until I started working at Shift Group. I have a teammate with that title as well. So I would love if you could demystify that title for our listeners today, and maybe what does this mean in your position at AU?
I know it's all encompassing. I think sometimes for a reason. I unfortunately cannot take credit for thinking of that title. But when I came over from the agency side, CSM was agency of record for Athletes Unlimited. I came over to the league side, and the CEO, John Patrickhoff, christened me with this title. So pretty much I can run the gamut of anything. Nike, Tops, NFTs, sports betting, our Innovation Summit, which is a big event that we produce. So anything can kind of get thrown my way. So that's where that Swiss Army knife or jack of all trades capability can come in, or if you want to relate it back to sports, that utility player, what do you need? I got it. So all hands on deck. So it's a pretty cool title. You're not limited to just doing one thing, which is something that I absolutely love. Because if I was locked into, one thing, I think I would get bored knowing my curiosity level.
Yeah, so you called yourself the Swiss Army knife or the jack of all trades. Sounds like you like to wear many hats, or that's just a major plus for the role. I'm curious, what are some key skills or experiences maybe before joining the team at AU that helped you earn that title and helped you feel qualified to do many different roles?
So when I actually look back at my career, a lot of the skills and traits came when I was an athlete. How to handle no's, how to handle setbacks, how are you going to pivot, or handle adversity, adapting. So pivoting and adapting, because again, your career, at least mine, has been very zigzagged. So through those skill sets, I then landed in unique opportunities or unique roles, but where it really flourished and where I was able to capitalize on those key skills was I did a couple years of consulting. So what was unique about that is you just get literally dropped into an organization or a brand or a team. You're not really onboarded. You're not really your hand is not held. It's the purpose is to be dropped in and complete a project. So being naturally curious, I thrived in that environment, but that honed and sharpened those skills because you just had to go in and do. And then you would get a lot of rejections or no's, or quickly had to pivot because you had a timeline for a project or a timeline, being with that team. So that just enhanced my skill set, which then anything I looked at post consulting, I wanted to make sure had something of that liking, because I know those are the environments I like to thrive in.
Yeah, and you had mentioned you developed a lot of those skills, or they came from athletics. So before we dive too much into the professional career world, can you just take us back to the beginning? What were you like growing up, and talk us through your journey to Division I athletics then? How did you build those skills that eventually helped you in your career?
Well, this might turn into a therapy session. No. So I'm the oldest. I then have a younger sister and a younger brother. My younger sister was the talented athlete, could pick something up and was just naturally gifted.
That's my sister too, so I can 100%. Yeah.
and was my dad's favorite. So this is on record.
Oh, weird.
My parents were both athletes. My dad, very competitive. He was also in the Navy, Chicago firefighter. So in terms of discipline and regimen and strict, like that is kind of like the ethos of how I was raised. But it was that like inner competition, not necessarily competing with my sister, but it was like that work ethic. Love my sister, but if somebody was to breathe a little heavier down her neck, I think she might have folded. So sorry, Tracy. But I was the one that, go ahead, tell me no. Like I was like maybe thick-headed and stubborn, where I would just constantly keep running through that wall if you told me I couldn't do something. So I played every sport growing up, which I think everyone, any kid or anyone who has kids should do that. I mean, everything from swimming and basketball, volleyball, soccer, tennis, softball. I mean, you name it, played it. And I was a little bit of a late bloomer. I did swim in high school, but I did not start playing water polo until sophomore in high school. And it was this whole like, are you going to be able to be recruited and then obviously play? And again, love a good challenge. So did play Division I water polo. But again, I think it was the hand-eye coordination, the ball skills. So that growing up, I don't want to say not being good enough, but a little bit of like that chip on your shoulder and having to work. And I don't think anybody says this. I really liked practice. Like I liked practice. I liked the discipline and the routine of it. I loved lifting and running. Like I just loved the ethos of practice, which that repetition, like I think has also carried me through even to like my current state. But yeah, that chip on my shoulder, I think hasn't left me since I was a kid.
I think that's so important, like being committed to the process, not just the competition piece, but it's the process. And having that chip on your shoulder, like sometimes it can have a negative connotation to it, but I totally disagree. I think it could be a real strength.
Yeah. Especially when you're at competition with yourself. Some people are like, wow, you're very competitive. Like it's not with anyone else. Sometimes it's just with yourself. Like, can you be, and that's like, again, something I say to myself, like, can I be 1% better every day in any category of my life, at the gym, at work, in my personal life? Like, can I start stacking habits to make sure that that I'm better today than I was yesterday?
Yeah, that 1% better every day, I'm sure has served you extremely well in your career so far. Can you talk us through then your transition from your collegiate Division I athletic career to your professional career? What was that journey like a little bit? If you could just give us a brief overview from then to now.
Oh, it was harder than I thought. I mean, when you're a college athlete and everything is structured and you have the timing and you're working out 2-3 times a day, and then you go into the corporate world, I remember the shock of, you just sit here all day, like 9 to 5, you just sit here. Like it was, and then again, some people like to find your team, to kind of find people that are like-minded. Because again, when you're on a team, they're like-minded. They like the same sport. They work out. They're competitive. You know, like there's a built-in family. And sometimes when you're going to a job, it doesn't mean that they necessarily like love the job or love the industry. So it was a lot harder. It took me a while to get my footing, just in terms of like, okay, Nicole, you have to get back to that athlete mindset of like early workouts, like where's your team, like playing water polo post-college, signing up for marathon, like finding those little holes so that I wasn't kind of like sucked into this like 9 to 5, you just sit at a desk and almost like lose yourself. So yeah, it was definitely harder. And nobody really gave me a heads up in college on that transition into the quote unquote real world.
I think that's important to call that out. Like I talk to athletes every day. I actually talked to someone last week who had said something very similar. He just graduated and he is looking down the barrel of his future and thinking like, I just left my 4-year Division I football career behind. I'm going to sit at a desk every day until I retire. Like, I think that's something that it's important that we talk about that, because that transition is difficult. And I think you brought something up that's really important. Like finding your team is almost more important than finding maybe the product that you like selling or whatever it is. It's like finding that atmosphere that's going to fill that cup of your competitiveness or your just goal-oriented mindset. I don't know. I just think that was a great point. So I just want
No, I agree. And it's going to constantly evolve and change because you're going to change. And I know they talk about professional athletes when they retire that they're lost. I mean, I think that's anyone. Again, my dad, when he retired from the Chicago Fire Department, that's all he did. You're almost like sitting there like, oh, life's different. It's the same thing if you're a college athlete and you're playing at a high level and you're literally giving, your extra time to doing that. And then if you're not making it pro, life is completely different on the other side. And sometimes that first job is not your career. I think also a lot, because again, we're hyper competitive, like we're very type A usually, that you're like, this has to be it. Or I just told you I was stubborn and run through walls. You also have to know how to like pivot and adapt. And if like you're not jiving with something, or if you don't like something, it's okay to completely change course. And the other thing is, I think so many people in the professional world who are not athletes don't understand the athlete mindset. Like those skill sets you get as an athlete, you can't you can't compare that. Like you can handle feedback, you can handle criticism, you can sit there and you know how to work as a team, but you know how to do stuff individually. I mean, you know that if the play is broken down, how to improvise, and I call that like not needing a blueprint. Like I don't need you to give me explicit instructions, or I don't need to check the box. Like, yes, I can take direction, but I also know how to like almost improvise. And I think some of those athlete qualities, when you're working with people or for someone who maybe isn't an athlete that doesn't understand that piece, that's why it's important to, whether it's find your tribe, find your team, find people who are like-minded, who can almost remind you you're not crazy. Because sometimes you're sitting there like, what? Like, this is what I meant, or this is what I'm trying to do, or I'm competing with myself. It's that whole piece to have a group of people around you. Like, no, like it's you, it's not them, like you got, or it's them, it's not you. Right. So again, I think that's really important, especially when you're fresh out of college, because again, I think it's a culture shock, because most people aren't athletes unless you're really in that environment. But even working in sports, most people working in sports, I don't want to say most, a good amount of people working in sports, they weren't athletes.
Yeah, I hope anyone listening to this who is maybe transitioning, whether it's our athlete candidates at Shift or veterans or whatever it is, like listening to you, I hope they understand like all those things that you listed, like those are talents. Just because you don't know exactly what the future holds, like you have a lot to offer. And I do think anyone who says they got their dream job right away out of college or their first job, I think they're full of shit. So maybe the few, but I don't know. I've never actually seen it apply and be real.
Right. So. I mean, and again, I like where I was out of college to where I am now, like everything has changed, because again, you're going to learn and grow. Again, in college, they're not really telling you what's out there. My first job, like you mentioned, was advertising sales at MTV. They didn't tell me that was a thing, and even what it was and how you did it. They're going to give you like the big bucket items. So once you're out there, like talk to people and start being curious. Again, being curious is the best thing, because again, special projects. I don't think in college they're telling you there's a special projects role out there. So, you can kind of like curate the role that you want, like the further I think you go along in your career.
Yeah, there's so much opportunity out there really to create your own path. I think that's a really amazing call out. And you've had a lot of different experience. You wear a lot of different hats. And one thing you had mentioned before we started the call today, you had mentioned that leadership is not loud. I took a note of that. How has your perception of leadership changed as you've moved through your career?
So when I was younger, even in college, like you would think leadership's loud, like it's the loudest person in the room and they're in your face and they're telling you who they are and what they do or what they can do. And, the older you get and the more experiences you have, you realize that it's not in your face. And it's usually those that are quiet and that lead with their actions are the true leaders. So it's being a good human, not wavering. A lot of people want to, join the crowd or do what the majority is doing. I think it's really hard, especially in today's day and age, to be authentic and to stand up for what you believe in and almost trust your gut. But the other thing I've learned throughout my career, it's the wins that no one sees that are bigger and more important than, especially for your character and for your leadership, than what's public facing sometimes. So what you see in the public, like what I said yes to, or what I said no to, or who I'm supporting, you're not seeing some of those smaller wins of like what I turned down, or what I did without any publicity, or who I'm helping, or, those smaller wins that are not like posted on your highlight reel of Instagram, or LinkedIn. Those are the ones that I think really craft, and shape your character and the type of person you are. And a lot of people are just not posting those because they're not going to get the clicks or the likes. Right. So I think that, looking at people or finding people who are true to who they are and are genuine humans, and back up their words with their actions, but are not, that are not loud. I think you'll start seeing that those are the people that you want to either work with or follow or learn from.
Yeah. And it sounds like from just your perception of leadership that it's something that can absolutely be learned. Like it's not something that, you're just born with. People aren't just great leaders automatically. It's trial and error. It's something that you're taught. And I noticed that mentorship is something that is really important to you too. You're a member of some different leadership organizations, The Post, Wise, Empowered. Can you just share a little bit about maybe some leadership insights you've learned from mentorship, or what type of impact mentorship has had on your career?
It's been something that's filled my cup, like very passionate about. And I was talking to somebody the other day about this. It's like that, like, again, sports analogy, or like quarterback 1, quarterback 2, or like when you're an underclassman and an upperclassman, you want to make sure that, the younger athlete or the backup quarterback, like that they are getting reps, but that they're learning, and understanding how things work, what they should be aware of, what they should really be focusing on. Maybe they want to go back to school, maybe they don't. I don't want to make a blanket statement, but sometimes I don't think women help women. Again, it could also be like men aren't helping women, women aren't helping men. You can say that either which way. But like Empowered and Wise, it's awesome because, again, you're obviously working with women in the industry. But why hold back? Like, why not give them the secrets or, the tricks of the trade? Why not say to them, like, hey, you should really think about this. If you like these skill sets, why don't you aim big? I was mentoring somebody who was an HR coordinator. She's like, I don't like the red tape, but I love this organizational piece. I love the business piece, but I don't really want to be locked into a partnerships or a content role. I'm like, COO, chief business officer, chief, organizational or operational officer. I'm like, go follow them around, ask them questions. But it's like, she laughed at me that I'm like going C-level for her, but I'm like, why not go all the way high? And then she can back her, she can kind of go back and say, okay, how can I get to that level? What are some of the skill sets I need?
Yeah.
I think in sports, again, I'm going to preface this in sports because that's the industry I'm in. It can be hard for females. It could be hard for anyone, younger people into like early on in their career trying to break into the field. Like, why not help? It's only going to help everybody else. You are going to learn and grow from it. Because trust me, some of the younger, those younger professionals, they're doing things that like we haven't had to worry about when it comes to social media, blogging, podcast, like all of those different areas. Some people just don't understand that. So why can't you both mentor each other and help each other grow? So
yes,
it excites me, and I think it can be done better. I don't think there's any one place that's, doing it, to a T. So I do think it's everyone. So calling out everyone who's listening or watching this too, like move somebody out. It doesn't even have to be, it doesn't have to be a female. Like go to anyone that's in your industry. You can go to somebody who's a junior and senior in college and start mentoring them, because I just mentioned, no one got me ready for the real world. Nobody told me how to build a resume or how to apply for a job or the dreaded cover letters that are still out there for some reason. But it's those pieces where it's like, just help them get the foot in the door. Like if you're that scared that they're going to take your job, I think that's a you problem, and you need to start working on yourself and your skill sets to make sure that you're not scared of somebody coming out of college or who's, entry level.
Yeah, I think that's a sentiment I've actually heard quite a few times on the show. It's really important for, yes, women to hold the door open for other women in the industry, whatever industry you're in. But I think something can be learned from everybody. Just because you're young doesn't mean you can't teach whoever you want to mentor you some lessons too. I think that's so important. Like we can all help each other and make each other better. And if it's something that is making you nervous, like you said, then maybe there's some more reflection that needs to be done, or maybe some harder work.
Well, and I think that's also, it's where leadership's born. Like if you're willing to give of your time and resources, or, some of career advice, or really take someone under your wing, I think that, again, it's like those wins that nobody sees. I don't think you need to, post that all over that you're doing some amazing thing. Like help somebody out. Like I do believe in karma, and things, come back tenfold. So if you're intimidated by it, I think like you said, some self-reflection needs to be done on your own end.
Yeah. And you had mentioned, you are speaking specifically to the sports industry. That's been your experience. So I do want to get your opinion on, you've been in the sports industry for a long time. You've been in some more traditional type sports industry roles and to some more innovative ones, such as where you are now. So where do you see the future of sports and sport marketing going? Is there any trends or anything big that you see on the horizon?
It's at a very interesting place where there's a lot of intersections: culture, music, food, politics, just a lot of intersection with sport. I think athletes are more vocal. There was an interview, I think, by Michael Jordan, who mentioned how he would never talk politics. Like he didn't want to ruin his brand. And there's a couple older athletes that have said that. Where you have a lot of athletes and artists now speaking up, like who they're endorsing or what they stand up for. So I think sports will be interesting, where you'll be hearing more of like that athlete voice. It won't necessarily be league or team. I think athletes, I don't want to say they have the power, but some of these leagues, athletes are limited. It's player-led, unrivaled, player-led. So you're starting to get some of these startup leagues that are challenging status quo or challenging traditional leagues, changing the format, changing the scoring, making things a little different. So I think you'll see more of the athlete voice, and I think you'll start seeing some of the traditional sports be challenged, or some of these new emerging leagues that are coming out of nowhere. There's grass league for golf. I think it's more to get that consumer's attention.
Yeah.
Very limited, very limited in terms of how people consume things these days. So instead of watching golf, for 4 or 5 hours, 3 days in a row, they're doing these bite-sized like par threes, or like what Liv's doing. So I think you're going to start seeing some twists, which will be interesting to see if these leagues and these new startups will survive. If the consumer and the demand will still be there, if they will always go back to right now, like the big five, like the MLB, because MLB's had some challenges with being very antiquated. So it'll be interesting to see if somebody can challenge the traditional sport model.
Yeah, I think it's interesting the amount of disruptors that are beginning right now and that we're seeing in the space. So I'm interested to see where that goes to. Gosh, we only have a couple more minutes here. I hate how fast it goes by. So I'll just hit you with a couple more questions, Nicole. I would just love to know, what's the best career advice you've ever received? And how has it maybe changed your approach to leadership or your career?
So two that I don't want to say are very cliche. I think people have like heard a lot, but they've come up throughout my career. Trust the process. Again, sometimes I just told you I loved practice, but sometimes I really want to kind of get to that end. So it's really trusting the process and enjoying, stacking those habits to know that something is going to come at the end. Your tribe is key. Your team, whatever, like that is key. And it doesn't have to be your day-to-day team. It's who are you? You know how they say you're the CEO of your life? Like
Yeah.
you can sit there and say who is on your team or not. So I think those are very important. But one that came up, a very wise soul, this woman, Angie, who has been in the industry for a very long time, she dropped this on me this past year. Winning is knowing you're right, not proving you're right. So sometimes, that competitive, you almost want to be like, no, like, I just need you to, like, I need to prove that this is the right direction. Whether it's like, no, we have to go down this path, like, this is the right way, like, always like kind of forcing that. Just sit there and be like, you know what, I think this is the right way that we're going to, I think this is the right way. We might not be going down that path, but I'm okay with it. And I don't have to spend my time and energy proving it.
Yep.
That has been such an eye opener to me, where I'm like, wow, just don't waste your energy proving that to anyone. Spend that energy doing other things.
I love that. I think that's so validating. Like, if you are even just with your career path in general, like, there's going to be a lot of noise, especially when you're maybe starting a new career or joining a different team, or who knows. People want to give their opinions, and I think it's just like, you don't have to prove that this is the right option for you. If you know it's the right option for you, it's a win.
Correct. And that's where it goes back to like trusting your gut. And that's the quotes out there all the time. It's like, would you take advice from somebody that you don't respect, or that doesn't know the shoes that you're in every day? So sometimes you can take it and learn from it, or put it in the back and digest it, but you don't have to allow that to like really seep into you and have that, be something where like, oh, this is like who I am. You could just take the nugget, learn from it, filter it, and then move on.
Yes. I love it. Final question for you, Nicole. What advice? So the premise of the show was originally to inspire women to join sales teams or seek leadership roles. Mm-hmm. So my final question for you is really just, what advice do you have for young professionals, especially women who are entering maybe the sports entertainment space and they want to be in leadership one day? What advice do you have for them?
Keep evolving, keep learning. So it goes back to like being curious. Keep getting 1% better. Again, you just have to keep stacking those wins. Who you are now is not who you're going to be in 5, 10, 15 years. And my outlook has obviously changed because I've had a very zigzaggy path. I think you need to take nuggets from everyone. Like I just said, those that you respect, listen to them, learn from them, put all that stuff in the bank. You'll one day need it, and it will help shape how you are as a leader, as a teammate, as a coworker. Those are like the biggest like moments to just like stop and pause. And then the leaders that you don't respect and you think, oh, I don't need to like pay attention or learn from them, those are the ones you usually have to pay attention to, because you're going to take something away. You're going to say, I don't want to lead like that. I don't want to be that type of person. How they respond, what types of situations, are they loud, like all of those things. So those, you can't just always go to those people or those areas that are easy or comfortable. I think a lot of the growing and learning you do are in those uncomfortable situations. And I say it all the time, I'd rather be uncomfortable than comfortable or complacent. So learn from those that might challenge you, or that you're not aligned with their views, and then go to different areas of your career that might not be easy. I know sometimes as athletes, we sit there and we know we're good at one thing and we don't want to, work on your left hand or work on different skill sets. And I think the more that you can be uncomfortable and learn those skills, again, put them in your toolkit. You never know when one day somebody's going to need that, and you can raise your hand and say, yeah, I know how to produce events. Yeah, I know how to do strategy. Yeah, I can client serve it. So I think the more that you can be uncomfortable, the more that you'll learn, and it's going to help shape you through your career. So I think you just have to be open and not sit there and say, I'm going to be president of a team and this is the only path I can go on. Like, you really have to just kind of like throw your arms up and say, okay, whatever happens, happens. I'm going to learn from it. And hopefully there's some good people around me.
I love it. Nicole, thank you so much. This was Absolutely wonderful. I loved our chat today. Can I encourage anyone listening today to connect with you on LinkedIn or reach out to you or follow you on socials?
Yes. I mean, I'm not like huge on social, but LinkedIn, yes.
Okay, cool. LinkedIn.
That's the big one. Email, again, if they need my email, it's just NicolePawlak@gmail if they aren't a LinkedIn type of person. But no, yes, definitely. Anybody has any questions, comments, wants to challenge me, definitely open.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole. This was fabulous. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back next week, same time, 1 p.m. Eastern. See you guys then. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.